pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amy, can you take roll call, please?
Mr. Gilbert?
Here.
Mr. Teesort?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Mr. Heather?
Here.
Mrs. Taube? Here.
These mics are pretty hot.
Yeah.
Should we turn some of them off, or is there an adjustment?
If you want to turn them off when you're not talking, that might help.
Yeah,
Mine's not even on.
maybe it's just mine. All right. Okay, one of the agendas that we're going to do this year is make sure that we read our mission statement at the beginning of each of the board meetings. Northwest Local School District mission statement is, the Northwest Local School District will create a responsive learning community where all students are valued, challenged, and guided along a pathway to success. Okay, that brings us to the first item, legislative update.
Mark, I'm waiting on Amy submitted my name for the update, so I went to the website, and the last update that was on their website, which I didn't know existed till tonight, was from October, so there's no updates.
Okay. And that brings us to Student Achievement Liaison Report.
Yes, we have over 90 names of students that have placed for our BPA, our Business Professionals of America, as well as DECA. We have many that are state qualifiers, and those names are going to be on our website.
Okay.
On March 3rd, the Health Occupation Student Association competition will be held in Columbus, and March 10th and 11th is the BPA and DECA state competition, also in Columbus. So to get a full list of names on our website. And then Northwest High School Butler Tech DECA program was recognized for their outstanding school-based enterprise known as the Knights Spirit Shop. The school-based enterprise at Northwest High School was among 461 school-based enterprises achieving gold recertification for the 21-22 school year, and will be recognized during DECA's International Career Development Conference in Atlanta. And our student workers at the Spirit Shop are Lily McFarland, DeBrian Woods, and Daquan Johnston. So congratulations to them. And also over at Taylor Elementary, we'd like to recognize Riley Hildebrand, a 5th grade student council member, and who is also on the honor roll and volunteered at Parent Involvement Night as the building guide for new students. And Eli Birchfield, Hayden Harrison, and Sincere Miller all went up 20 points on their MAP test. They are from Mrs. Helton's 2nd grade class. And Eva Copeland in Access scored an 804 on the Ohio State test. So congratulations to all of them for their hard work.
Great, congratulations. Okay, Butler Tech update.
Yeah, Mark, just two things. Right now, we're going through negotiations with the teachers union at Butler Tech, so we had negotiations today, and hopefully our next one is the 22nd, and hopefully we'll get that wrapped up. And then just Wednesday, I'll be traveling to Columbus to call on Senator Blessing and some representatives just to see where we are with career tech.
Okay.
And the funding is what we're going up to talk about.
Great.
So the next board meeting, I'll have a little more, tell you what's going on with those discussions.
That's great.
And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that brings us to any reports from employee organizations. Was there any for you? Okay. In keeping with kind of the acknowledgement that Nicole just read, I've challenged the PTA presidents to share with us successes that they're having with their efforts, and I have one submitted from the president of the Taylor Elementary PTA, and it was a staff recognition for Heather Ward, and this is what was submitted to me. We would like to recognize Heather Ward. Heather is one of our reading specialists at Taylor who has done a great job creating an environment in the 4th and 5th grade that focuses on how we can support and enrich students so that we can meet them where they are at and push them to where they need to be. She has also done an awesome job providing our staff with supports they need in language arts to be able to continue the growth process with our students. On top of all this, when times become difficult, Mrs. Ward stepped up and decided to take over one of our 4th grade classrooms due to us being down a teacher. The selflessness that she has shown to Taylor is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much, Heather. And I would like to thank Heather for that as well. We're going to be much more diligent about sharing our wins and successes in the district because we hear all of our struggles all the time. There's no problem finding them and people presenting them to us. So we are going to be just as diligent to find the blessings and our successes. And so I challenge anyone that would like to submit that for a board meeting, please feel allowable to send that to me or Daryl or anyone of the AO team. Next is community communications. We have not had any submitted for this evening. And that brings us to the approval of the superintendent consent items.
All right, so tonight, under personnel, we have our normal agenda items. We have 2 retirements, a resignation, 6 initial appointments, and 3 change in statuses. For our vendor contracts under business, we have Title I services, auxiliary services, and services with Hamilton County Department of Developmental Services. We also have a contract on there for Irvin Educational Consulting. That is also known as the Kid Whisperer. That is an organization that has come into our district. Some of our staff have taken training through this organization and have found it very beneficial. We hosted a conference from them this year at PRE, and many of our elementary staff were eligible to go. It was through our Success and Wellness dollars, so they were free of charge to go. Staff from outside of the district, other districts who wanted to send people were charged. So it was an opportunity for elementary staff to get a lot of professional development around behavior management techniques that are in alignment with our PBIS model and our restorative training. We have donations from the Women's Club to the Montford Heights Library and Walmart to the entire district for the health and safety fair that we put on every fall. And under student services, we have a resolution for the OHSAA membership for our athletic teams. The other thing that's on there is a resolution to accept bids for the demolition of Weigel. So our Weigel school side campus has a massive roof leak. We've been dealing with it for several years, and it's to the point where we are going to be vacating the Weigel side of the building and demoing that this summer. All of the programs and staff that are housed on that side of the building are currently being relocated into our central office side of the building, and some are being moved over into open space at Houston. So we'll be reallocating that space and moving people this spring, and then that side of the building will be demoed this summer. So this is part of the process to get the resolution so we can accept bids for that process.
Daryl, does that include the gymnasium, the whole?
No, the gym stays, the double doors stay, everything beyond the double doors would go.
Daryl, this is where Mike's a little hot. Any community feedback on use for the gymnasium for like the Groesbeck Athletic Association or anything? Because there's always a shortage of gyms.
Yeah, so right now that is still housing our alternative program. So our Transition Academy is there. So that does have student programs throughout the year, but a lot of our facilities can be rented by the public. They would go through the Student Services Office. We rent gyms a lot of evenings of the week, depending on availability.
It's not being rented right now, then?
No, the gym is actually being used as storage while we're transitioning, so it's not really usable right now as a gym.
Okay.
With that, the superintendent recommends the adoption of the consent items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion
discussions? Superintendent, items passed 5-0. That brings us to anything else with our fiscal consent items.
Good evening. First, we have the regular meeting minutes of January 24th to dispense with reading of and approve. We have our financial reports for the month of December, which is our all funds balance is a little over 57 million, with our general fund unreserved balance at 24 million. And remember, December is where we're at low cash flow. Taxes start coming in again in January and February, which is majority of our revenue, so we go in cycles. December and June are usually our lowest cash balances of the year. Our revenues are at 47% at 46 million, and we are slightly short of the 50% for 50% through the year, and that's because the state has been funding us on prior year numbers until January, when they started implementing the new formula. So this is based on just estimates and not actual, and that's why it's a little short of what we anticipated coming in. And our expenditures are at 45% or at 43.8 million. We have some open positions, as we've been talking about for several meetings, and we also have our purchase services. Invoices are slower to come in, so that's at like 26% for the year. It's just a timing of payments. Our weighted average return for investments is 0.69%, so it's slowly creeping up. And our list of monthly bills are our routine monthly bills, as well as we had some final debt, principal and interest payments. We had ESSER HVAC upgrades, our annuals workers' comp self-insurance excess cost payment. We had our Hanover contract, the Hamilton County ESC contracted services, and some auxiliary and grant fund payments. Then we also need to approve and appropriate 3 new funds. The new fair school funding formula restricted revenue that we used to receive into the general fund is now restricted. So it's the same dollar amount that we received in the past. They've just added restrictions to it and limited what we can spend it on. These restrictions are for gifted, English learners, and student wellness and success. So we need to create the funds in order to set the funds aside into separate funds within a fund, so that way it can't be spent on other things. And then some of them are restricted, like gifted, if it's not spent, it has to get sent back to the state. Others let you roll over, but the use is restricted. So with that, I'd like to ask the board to accept and approve items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconds. Are there any questions or discussions?
Amy, just one question. My prior experience on the board, they always wanted 2 months. I think I've asked you this before in reserve, and is it 3 months now that they?
60 days. It's the same as it was prior.
Okay, and
60 days in our reserve.
So then reserve would be 30 million or so for us?
We try to keep it around 25.
25, okay. All right, thank you.
I have one question since we have Mr. McKee here. You mentioned the HVAC upgrades. What buildings got ESSER fund HVAC upgrades? So like, I guess, enhanced filtration and?
All buildings.
All of them?
All buildings.
And are they all implemented at this point?
Yes, they are.
Great. And what are just some of the, I mean, I think clearly it's obvious that it's to clean the air, but are there any other things that are associated with that? I've had a couple people ask me that.
Yeah, it's bipolar ionization units on every air-moving unit, and then controls throughout every building so we can control the amount of outside air we're bringing in.
Side note, I was speaking with a parent who, when I mentioned what the ESSER funds are spent on, and I mentioned filtration, he is an environmental scientist, and he said, well, that just makes me so excited. People underappreciate that. And you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Okay. That brings us to the Homestead Exemption Enhancement. I am going to allow Amy Wells to explain that to us, and then we'll take a board action on that.
So in 2013, the General Assembly eliminated the 12.5% homestead and rollback tax credits that the state would pay on behalf of property owners for any levies past 2013. So prior levies, renewal levies, all could maintain the tax credits, but any new levy, the state would not pay that on behalf of the property owner. Property owner would pay 100% of the new levy. This resolution is asking, and then also in 2014, the state also amended the homestead exemption program, which then added more income-based testing and also limited the eligibility for the homestead exemption for individuals over age 65. So this resolution is in support of our senior citizens that support K-12 education and recognize its importance in providing educated citizens who will become productive members of our community, and that the board is asking and strongly encouraging the Ohio General Assembly to enhance the homestead exemption program to provide additional financial assistance for our senior citizens. It's asking to bring back or even make them better than they were before, but to help our seniors with the financial burden of helping to support their local school district.
Excellent.
Amy, so people understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, it basically reduces the burden if, let's say you had a $100,000 taxable real estate. Doesn't it take like $25,000 off on what you pay if you qualify for the Homestead Act?
Yeah, it reduces it down.
But
It's all based on income.
Oh, I thought it was a
limits.
flat 25,000.
I honestly, I can't tell you right now, Chris, because they've changed it so much.
Okay.
So it's based on income eligibility, and it might be, I don't know.
Okay, but it saves a few dollars for the folks who need it the most.
It's several thousand, yes.
And you gotta be 65.
Mhm.
So the board recommends that the Northwest Board of Education encourage the Ohio General Assembly to enhance the homestead exemption program to provide additional financial assistance to our community senior citizens. I need a motion in a second.
So moved. Second.
Are there any other questions or discussions?
The letter will go directly to our legislatures, but I think Lindsay's working on a press release.
Great, thank you, Lindsay.
Would you like me to take them up tomorrow? I'll be up in Columbus.
No.
I'm just gonna drop it off for you.
No, Jim.
Okay.
Amy, one other question. With that Homestead Act, how much does it actually, in terms of what it might cost us in money revenues, what does it cost the district if this is, in terms of money that would be coming in? So people know that it's not just, $100 here, $100 here, we're talking, some serious money, aren't we, with?
It won't be a difference to the district. It helps the property owner.
But if they're paying less into the
The state would pay it on their behalf.
Oh, the state pays it,
Mhm.
I understand.
And it's not saving them $25,000, it's reducing
The load.
$25,000 of value
That's.
that they'll pay taxes on.
Yes, I don't know anybody who pays 25,000, although it's getting there. Yeah,
Speaking into existence, Chris.
not far off.
That brings us to first semester harassment, intimidation.
So I want to bring up Dustin Garing, who will twice a year present to the board our semi-annual harassment, intimidation, and bullying report. And there's a lot of misconception with this, so I'm going to ask Dustin to kind of clarify what he's presenting and what happens on the back end as well.
I just turned on this mic and it might be just as hot as the other one, so we'll go with it for right now. Well, good evening, everyone. Just as Mr. Yater said, twice a year we report out on our allegations. Of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So right around this time, maybe you can get on Dustin. That's going to be unpleasant for everyone. But that isn't going to help any, Mr. Yater. I appreciate that. I've never really known as a quiet person, as most of you know. So twice a year we report on this, and essentially what it is it is a report of the number of filings that we've had from our parents or students. It doesn't necessarily represent every problem that we've solved with our kiddos. It really just represents the ones that submitted the form. There's a couple ways to submit the form. One is online. We do have that on our website, and it goes to a Google form. It submits, it comes to me, and then I get it to the principal, and then they chase it down with an investigation and a conclusion. They also can have a paper copy, which are available in every one of our buildings, in our student handbooks, as well as our student services guidelines and code of conduct. So those are also available to them. So you can submit it by paper or electronically, and what it does is it creates a little bit of formality to the allegation. The principals then go investigate what's going on, come to conclusion, and then on the backside, the parent then receives a letter affirming that yes, it was, in fact, harassment, intimidation, or bullying, it does meet the threshold, or no, it doesn't, but we're going to help you anyways. So every single day, all of our building principals help our kids, help our parents. Every single day, someone will come in and say, hey, I'm having a peer conflict issue, I'm having this issue or that issue. Not all of them submit the form. So the numbers you see represent the ones that actually submit the form. Our buildings do encourage them to submit the form, but a lot of times when the parent's at the door, they're not really interested in the form. They want the principal and they want help, and that's what they're going to do. And our principals do just that. So this report represents the forms that have come in, the formal complaints, and the allegations, and then also whether they're verified cases or not. Those all land in my office. I keep all of them forever and always. So they're always available to me as well, so they do have to submit those along the way. Any questions regarding HIB forms?
And I will say before you ask questions that even though something might be reported as an allegation but not founded as official harassment, intimidation, and bullying, it triggers a response from the building, and obviously there's a problem and they are solving that, whether it meets the level of definition or whether it's just something that a student is experiencing that's not comfortable. So we address them all, but they may all not rise to the level of meeting that definition of HIB.
And I'll just take a moment because I have a pedestal in front of me and just say out loud, like, if a parent is having a concern and they bring it to the principal and it doesn't solve it, bring it back. Because I hear often when it gets to my level, they're not doing anything. In reality, they're doing a lot of things. It just might not yet be working. But they don't know what's happening unless someone's telling them, hey, it's still going on, it's still happening. You know, a week ago, this happened. Yesterday, this just happened. That is one of the hardest things for the building principal, is you go out, you do a conclusion, an action step, you feel like we really made some movement here, everybody seems on board. 3 months later, the allegation comes back up, and the person said, yeah, they've been doing it for the last 3 months. And the principal's like, I wish you would have just told me 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago, we would have came back to the table and talked again and upped our tiers of intervention, upped the discipline. But I know it gets very frustrating when the first line of intervention or discipline doesn't get the result you want, but that's human nature. It's realities that we have to then move it up the line as we go. So just if anyone's listening and are having issues and it's repetitive, keep bringing it back. Clear communication to everything when it comes to us helping solve peer interaction problems. Sorry, that was a little bit of a pedestal moment, but I had it, so why not take it?
I need to confirm, everyone that goes to a principal doesn't necessarily make it to your desk. It's possibly if the principal needs your assistance or the family's not getting.
They will eventually come to me, but it is as
Okay.
a reporting measure only.
Okay.
When it comes to the principal works to solve that problem right then and there. We have very well-trained principals,
Yeah.
and they call me when they're like, boy, I'm stuck, or, oh, do you have any ideas? And they call a lot, and that's great. I'm glad that they do. But a lot of times the principal is that baseline and is going to be able to solve the issue right there.
Okay, thank you.
So all the incidents that occur up to the criteria that leads to HIB, where is that data compiled?
Sure.
Do we ever see that?
So it's there. You actually see it in front of you. So I'm sorry, you're asking something different. For the people who didn't file a form,
Or it just got wrong, no one actually, no student, parent, or guardian filed a complaint, but there was intervention done of some sub-level in the building.
Yeah.
Where does that data go?
at the point that there's discipline given, I can give you all the discipline data you're asking for. If the principal sat down and said, Johnny and Susie, let's sit down and talk, and they just did that, that's not going to land anywhere in a data form. But at the point that either one of those students or both receives discipline, then it's coded under disrespect to student. I can show you that,
Sure.
no issue.
I personally, like, I think this is, yes, this is the criteria, but it's skewed data.
Sure.
I mean, this is a very small sample.
Yep.
Like on this, Coleraine Middle School, 0, 0.
Yep. So that tells you no one submitted a form.
It has nothing to do with
Right.
Coleraine Middle School. It's any middle school is gonna have.
Sure.
I mean,
Don't disagree with you at all.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's.
Our middle
this
school
isn't-
principals solve problems every single day.
So in
Absolutely.
addition to this, I'll say when we do the second semester, I personally would like to see all the discipline brought up so that we can see if there's a trend in a building that needs to be
Sure.
addressed at a larger level.
Okay.
Because like I said, this is a very small sample.
Sure.
It's skewed.
It's the required sample.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. We're checking a box off of this. I understand that.
And our buildings are analyzing data on a quarterly basis where they're reviewing discipline data, achievement data. So they're looking at multiple pieces of data all the time as a building leadership team, and they're analyzing what's working, what's not, how do we tweak that. So that analysis that you're asking about happens continuously at a building level.
Sure.
Yeah, the report you're asking about is not difficult. It just doesn't check this box, but it's not difficult at all.
But that data is certainly a precursor for making this list, clearly.
I would think there's a heavy connection between the two.
Very heavy connection. Because granted, I'm older, and the way they disciplined me when I was in school was very different. Than
We don't do that anymore, Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was swatted in the 7th grade for walking and chewing gum at North Junior High.
We don't do that, no, sir.
Exactly.
Okay. I just want it on the record, we don't do that.
But we have to have a litmus, yes. put that on the record.
You can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Thanks. But the new models that we have for discipline, like, how do we act? That is one of the common complaints I hear from educators, that these initiatives are less effective as far as changing the behavior of the child. And I grant a lot of these are new processes that we're trying to implement, but like I would see that all of this data, the things that aren't reported on the HIB report, will give us a better sampling as like the litmus for how are we intervening with this behavior.
Sure.
So, like, I think what we get is, like I said, it's skewed and it's not accurate. And it's certainly one of the frustrations, especially this year. We've heard all kind of things, and I'm not saying that point as a figure. It's like, it's what we're dealing with in the middle of a pandemic where kids have been locked away for quite a while.
I'll tell you,
Go ahead.
I run this data, so I'm gonna tell you with absolute certainty, and it's gonna sound different than maybe you've heard, but it's a credit to our teachers. Despite all the barriers that our kids are facing, which are incredible right now, incredible. Despite those barriers, because with barriers comes all these things that you're talking about, all these other issues. Despite everything that's happened during a pandemic, our discipline numbers mirror what it was at the beginning of the year 1920 and the year 1819 and 1718. You can go back years and years, and the discipline numbers, number of referrals, number of suspensions, number of days, number of expulsions, number of ASAs, ALPS, you name it, I run it all. It mirrors. So despite the extra barriers that our kids are bringing to the table, and they are, our teachers are rising to the occasion, and they're helping our kids by intervening early. And what we thought we would see was skyrocketing numbers, right? Because teachers are on edge, kids are on edge, surely we're coming to blows and it's creating this big thing. Our numbers are, I can show you anytime you want to see it, very consistent with pre-pandemic. And now it sounds like, well, what difference is it making? Think about what our kids are bringing every day now that they weren't doing before COVID, right? And they brought their fair share of barriers before COVID as well. But we all recognize that kids are having a harder time now than they ever had. Despite that, our referrals are exactly on par. Our suspensions are on par. It feels different because last year was real quiet. Last year was really quiet. The numbers are incredible compared to last year because there's a lot of kids at home. And a lot of kids were in masks every single day, and they were trying to figure out how does this all work. And this year, our kids are back. They're learning, they're growing, they're stretching, they're being asked to do hard things.
They're changing classes, which they didn't do last year.
And they're changing classes. And with all that, despite that, our numbers are consistent. So I'm happy that is frustrating. I'm happy to do that report anytime. In fact, I can do a presentation anytime.
Yeah, I personally would like that. And I say what I'm saying, not in any kind of judgment toward any of our programming or anything like that. It's just.
You may want to know what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason we have the success we have is because we have a team of people who love our kids every single day. It's their children.
The numbers are a testament to our teachers.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I love our administrators, and they're fantastic. But I want to give this credit to the teachers, because if the teacher's still processing with that kid in the classroom, despite those higher elevated concerns and barriers and behaviors, that's happening on ground floor. That's tier one. That's where that teacher's like, I'm going to keep this right here in-house, I'm going to work with this kid. And so that's a testament to them. The administration's doing a great job too. They really are. They are processing so much. I was amazed as well. When I ran first quarter and then first semester of this year, I thought for sure I'd see this like incredible difference. But then as I ran the numbers across the quarters, we are on par with it despite all those things.
So it's so if I'm hearing this right, it's an increase on the numbers from the previous year, but we're back on par with pre-pandemic numbers.
We were. Yeah. I mean, last year we literally had very little.
Well, like Daryl said, I saw it with my own son at the high school with being a cohort and not changing. So you had half the number of students in the building, and those students that were in the building were in the same classroom all day.
Right.
And so you didn't have all the interactions
You
in
only had 20
between.
people to argue with.
Right. But quite simply, right.
It's mathematics.
I mean, who are you mad at?
Right.
Him.
Yep.
Again, that's all you had.
So yeah, along with what Mark said, I'd be interested in that information as well. Yeah.
We'll get that for you.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Daryl, you're up.
Right, so I just have a couple of things. One, I want to take a moment and I want to give a huge shout out to our maintenance department. We had Thursday and Friday full of ice, snow, freezing rain, everything the Mother Nature could throw at us, we got. And our maintenance department came out on Friday. They came out on Saturday. They came out on Sunday. They started at 3 a.m. this morning, and they were clearing our lots. They were salting. They were removing ice and snow. And we were able to be in person in school today because of our maintenance department. And I can't say thank you enough to them for everything that they've done. In addition to that, on Sunday, we had many of our custodians who were in, and they were working on sidewalks, salting, chipping away at ice, getting those cleared so that kids could safely get and staff could safely get into buildings. So I cannot say thank you enough to our maintenance and custodial staff who worked around the clock over the last 3 days to get us ready to open today. So kudos to them and thank you for everything they've done. The other thing is we have announced that we are not going to be in session on Monday the 14th. We have had a lot of feedback from our community, from our parents, from our staff, from kids. I had a middle school student write me an essay about that day. So a lot of engagement around that day. We have been teaching, learning, and living through a pandemic. And it is exhausting, and people are worn out and on edge, as Dustin mentioned. And we're excited. People are coming together in ways they haven't come together. There's a renewed sense of community that people are feeling, and we want to celebrate and amplify that as well. And so we will not be in session on that day. However, we want to really take that sense of community, not just around the Bengals, which we support wholeheartedly, but we also want to really amplify that among our community. We have a lot of community partners who support us all the time. And so we have Sun Ministries, Side by Side, Nate's Toy Box, and our health fair for the district. And those organizations operate year-round, and they're asking for support as well. And so we are offering ourselves up as community drop boxes for that. So there are drop boxes in all of our buildings so that our community can not just rally around the Bengals, but they can rally around our community. And they can drop off items for those organizations, non-perishable food items, travel size toiletries, new toys, and school supplies at any of our buildings. And we'll house those so that those organizations can get those, because we want to make sure that as we rally around this sense of community and support, that it's for a broader sense than just the Bengals, but bringing us together for some really good reasons. So we will be off on Monday the 14th, and we are hoping for a win, but we're actually hoping for a bigger win for our partners. Yeah.
I mean, everything looks like they're trending down.
Yeah, everything is still trending down. Community numbers are going down. Our staff and student numbers are still pretty consistent to where they have been. So we are still seeing a trend down in the COVID numbers. What we're hearing is it's still about 2 to 3 weeks as we continue to come on this downside before we kind of reach the bottom of it. But we are seeing that. We are still following the guidelines from the health department with mask to stay, test to play, and we are obviously still mask optional but recommended.
Does anybody have any questions or discussions for Derek? I just want to say about the day after the Super Bowl, we got quite a bit of feedback from an array of folks. These aren't easy decisions at all. I personally feel the best place for our kids are in front of our students, and that's just, they have to be in front of them. That's a group that I hear from. And then I hear a group that is in, we need the downtime. Let's take that off. One of the things that I've seen through this whole thing is like all the adversity that has gone on in the separation between anybody and everybody in the last couple of years. It has been quite a blessing to see people come together over, granted it's football, I get it, but they're still coming together. Like, I was at Sam's the other day and I passed this guy and we just started talking, which is like, oh my God, you're almost like, you can't talk to me, it's COVID season. And so we're seeing it, and so inevitably, and Daryl, I'm going to speak a little bit maybe on your end, when we make a final decision, inevitably the decision comes down to what's best for our kids. And our educators and staff obviously too, but when we get in these badminton matches back and forth about what is the right thing to do, inevitably that is our goal, is to, and what's best for the students, maybe we have to do something for the teachers so that they're healthier when they're in front of the kids. So it was not an easy decision. There's a monetary piece to that, which we talked about through all this. It wasn't an easy decision, and I say it isn't easy because we don't want to do good for people. It's just there's an element of the business side of that as well. And so I just want people to understand that I got quite a bit of feedback. I've had conversations with staff. I welcome that all the time. I feel like it's part of my job as the president of the board to do that. I share all that with Daryl, and I felt great discussion around it.
I think I'd like to just piggyback on the recognition of our maintenance crew and clearing of the parking lots and the custodians and clearing the sidewalks. I was kind of, going to wait for my, board member comments, but I think I'd just like to piggyback on the update with this. That I drove through, White Oak Middle School and Struble in this parking lot here at Weigel on Saturday evening, and I was just shocked at what I saw, the conditions of the parking lots. It was like they had obviously been plowed. There had been an attempt to clear the parking lots, but on Saturday, after what happened on Thursday and Friday, they were still sheets of ice. And if Sunday would have been a school day, there would have been zero school yesterday. And to be perfectly honest, is like what I saw Saturday and what it took for our maintenance to clear that up on Sunday after not being able to clear the ice on Friday and Saturday and still have school, albeit a 2-hour delay, is nothing short of miraculous in my mind. And I saw that, my own, 2 eyes, and was on my travels on yesterday, drove by, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there were 2 of our trucks clearing Corwin Middle and Corwin Elementary. And still, at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, it wouldn't have been a safe atmosphere for, drop-off if those conditions were still in place this morning. And so, yeah, just...
And they did that, went home, and we're back on our lots at 3 a.m. this morning.
Right.
To make sure that we could be in session today. So, like I said, I can't say enough about our maintenance department and our custodians for what they did. Our maintenance department just is amazing.
And make no mistake, we're a district of 11 buildings and 11 parking lots, and some of our parking lots are just huge. So for our maintenance crew, our limited maintenance crew, and their abilities to get that done after, and it's amazing to me that it happens when, a Monday night we get a normal snowfall, so there's no school on Tuesday, so they have to clear 11 parking lots to get back in school on Wednesday, and that pretty regularly happens. And that's pretty amazing too. But with the sheer amount of ice that fell with this storm, and that they were able to have school in session today, is pretty impressive. That's what I have to add to that.
And Chris, how are the roads for the bus drivers today? Any feedback from them?
Surprisingly, the roads were in very good shape. We had 3 township roads that we were concerned about, but by this morning, they were in great shape.
Are they routinely the 3 that you typically always see?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I appreciate the work that they did to get the schools ready. I was just curious of what goes into deciding when and where to start with cleaning the lots. I mean, I do know that Corning Elementary and Middle School weren't touched until yesterday at some point. So I was just curious of that process.
I'll let Chris talk about that.
Yeah, so typically we look at events that are going on in the buildings. Naturally, your high schools are nonstop, so we try to get those cleared first. Then also, depending on what day it is, you got to make sure the transportation's ready to roll. So that's high on the priority list. And then we get the middle schools and elementary schools. We also take a look at what rentals we may have. So, some of our partners who are renting our buildings, we make sure that we get them in and allow them to use the rental space as they wanted to. So there's a lot of factors, but mainly the high schools are the highest priority just because of sporting events.
Sure.
So was it the sidewalks in that with the 2-hour delay? I mean, just looking at the news this morning, there wasn't, I didn't see any of our neighboring districts on delay, so I was just curious what the call was for the 2-hour delay. Was it the...
Yeah, really the biggest problem that you have is the concern of staff falling in a parking lot. Basically you've got 9,000 to 10,000 people walking through your doors in a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the danger of ice, not being able to see. So we thought it was best to at least give people daylight. We've also got a large number of walkers, and we don't bus high school students, so we have a lot of high school students that are driving. So we'd like to give them the daylight to be able to see what's going on.
And a lot of our buildings, we're still finalizing and clearing some of the sidewalks leading up to the building. So it gave us a little bit more time for this morning for that final clearing to make sure that we could make it as safe as possible.
But I think you'll still see that there's some sidewalks that still are not cleared.
Yes, I was at one this morning.
There's a couple inches of ice on them. And if that side of the building doesn't get sunlight, with the extreme cold temperatures that we had over the weekend, that's why they battled with it.
Yeah.
You can put salt down, you can do your best, but until we can get those temperatures up above freezing, it's really hard to get rid of it.
Anybody else? All right, that brings us to board member comments. Chris?
Nothing from anyone.
Jim?
Couple things, just want to congratulate the Coleraine Wrestling team for being GMC champs.
Yeah. First time ever?
I believe
It is.
First time ever.
Is that Dustin, since you were coaching?
First time ever.
First
Yeah.
time ever.
So, it's huge kudos to them. And good luck at the districts coming up and then state. And just want to piggyback on what everybody said about the maintenance staff. They did a hell of a job getting everything cleared. So I just want to thank them for that. That's it.
Nicole?
Yeah, just congratulations to all of our BPA and DECA students, as well as the students with the test scores. Thank Dustin for his presentation, and also everyone that came in over the weekend and got everything cleaned up for everyone coming in. And just thanks to the AO staff for the December 14th, I think, or excuse me, February 14th. I think that's a good thing for everyone in the community. And I'd like to encourage everyone to support the community partners. I see what they do for many of our families, and they're just wonderful organizations. So I'm hoping that out of this can come some great support for them. So thank you.
Yeah, just along with what Nicole just said, encourage our community to support our Nate's Toy Box, Side by Side Ministries, Sun Ministries, and also the Northwest Local School District Health Fair. And to end on that note, Who Day?
Okay, hope this isn't too hot. First, I want to throw the challenge out to our PTA members that if you recognize anything going on in the buildings, please don't hesitate to forward that to us so that we can shine some light on the positive. We've had a very, very difficult couple years, and we're still seeing the miracles and blessings of education happen, and we really want people to see that still. The wrestling team, it's the first time ever. I mean, it's outstanding. My daughter helps out with the wrestling team, and she went screaming through the house yesterday when she got the text that it happened. And I'll tell you, I've watched some of the junior high kids coming up. We got some really good kids. I mean, we had a couple really dry years there of candidates, and it seems like more and more people are getting interested in it, which is great. I do want to congratulate and re-acknowledge Heather Ward, and thank you, Christine, for sending that in for us. And then other than that, I just want to thank the teachers for continuing what you're doing and working the miracles that we see in our kids. And I'll finish with a Who Day. You guys have fun Sunday, and let's bring home a winner. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. If I can have a motion in a second.
So moved. Second.
Motion in a second. Great, that passes 5-0. Enjoy your week and be safe Sunday.